All right, our top focus on Newspoint. The Hezbollah offensive on Israel from Lebanon that has gone on for months, it has intensified. Lebanon's Iran-backed group Hezbollah has published a video now. It claims it is from one of its reconnaissance drones flying over northern Israel, including the Haifa port. Reports say the Hezbollah has been launching drones across the northern Israel border on a daily basis, many of them laden with explosives. This video seems to suggest a message put out to Israel that Hezbollah has an eye on Israel and access to most of its security installations. The militant group indicated that the video was only the first episode of more yet to come, highlighting that the drones bypassed Israeli air defenses and returned to Lebanese airspace without being detected. There is still no comment on this from the IDF. But amid the escalating cross-border clashes with Hezbollah, the Israeli army says that its plans for an offensive on Lebanon have been approved and validated. The statement comes after Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz earlier warned and threatened Hezbollah that it would be destroyed in the event of a total war between the two. Even as Israel's ally, the United States, tries to avert an escalation in the region, Prime Minister Netanyahu is claiming that the United States is withholding weapons needed for the war in Gaza. Netanyahu implied that the holdup was slowing Israel's offensive in southern Gaza city of Rafah.
When Secretary Blinken was recently here in Israel, we had a candid conversation. I said it's inconceivable that in the past few months, the administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life, fighting against Iran and our other common enemies.
Now, reacting to the claims by Israeli Prime Minister, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that 2,000-pound bombs are the only weapons under review. Otherwise, everything else is moving as it normally does.
We have one case that the President's talked about publicly, about the 2,000-pound bombs and concerns that we have about them being used in densely populated areas. That remains. We continue to work through that, but there's been no change in our posture, which our posture is, again, to make sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself across these many threats.
The American forces also continue to safeguard the Red Sea trade route from the Houthi rebels. The U.S. military says over the past 24 hours, its forces have destroyed 8 drones belonging to Yemen's rebel group. On the other hand, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing mounting criticism at home over his handling of the war in Gaza and the hostage crisis. Protesters rallying on the streets of Jerusalem are calling for a new government and the resignation of the Prime Minister. Protesters also demonstrated in front of the Nahalat Yitzhak cemetery in Tel Aviv, where Netanyahu was addressing the public. Ahead of his speech, shouts of "You're in charge, you're responsible" could be heard from outside the boundaries of the cemetery. All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Dr. Avner Cohen, Professor of Non-Proliferation and Terrorism Studies at Middlebury Institute. Thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I want to begin by asking you, now, after Hezbollah released this video, Israel says that it in fact has validated and approved plans for an offensive, and that Hezbollah in fact would be destroyed in the event of an all-out war between the two. Now, in light of Israeli intelligence failures as well as this air defense breach, do you see this as an escalation?
Well, it's not simply that overflight by the drone, which has not dropped anything. It was embarrassing, but as you know, it's very, very difficult to shoot down those tiny drones. And Israel is working very hard to develop some technology to deal with it. But substantially, It is difficult for Israel to fight in two fronts. Israel is still occupied in Rafah. It may take 2 or 3 weeks to finish, at the least. And I think that as long as Israel has not finished, Israel would not move to another front. One should also remember that the Israeli army is exhausted. The IDF is tired. It needs some rest. If escalation in the north will happen, Israel will have to respond. In this case, it will, but it's not immediate, and I don't think that one should give too much immediate attention to the fact that the Northern Command, they approved some military operational plans. That's
All right.
This was done many weeks before Israel went to Rafah, and nothing happened.
All right, sir. But that being said, the United States, as you know, of course, has been trying to diffuse tensions between the two. With this development, do you reckon that the United States would be on edge as this risks perhaps drawing Iran directly into the war in West Asia, especially since the United States envoy was in Israel for the same purpose?
No doubt. Any war right now with Lebanon creates enormous uncertainties, regional, global. It would be a major problem for President Biden, who is now already in de facto campaign mode. It would be used by candidate Trump. And obviously, the United States does not want a war. It makes it very clear to Israel. And that's another reason beyond Israeli domestic reasons why actually Israel is not eager to start another frontiers. So I think the desire is not to, for reasons that you mentioned, for other reasons. If Hezbollah would continue to escalate and the pressure on Israel to respond, it may lead to a war, but I don't think it's imminent in the next few days. I think it's a matter of at least 2 or 3 or 4 weeks.
All right, but sir, let's also talk about the United States support of Israel. United States and Netanyahu, they've been at odds over the United States withholding the supplies of the 2,000-pound bombs. However, Antony Blinken has mentioned that the rest is moving as it normally would. Now, my question is, what is the United States' dilemma here?
Well, first, I would say that what the Israeli Prime Minister said today was insulting to President Biden, who did incredible amount of work for Israel. It was factually inaccurate, as you pointed out, as Blinken pointed out, and it was politically not wise. There is only one delivery which is being suspended, and indeed it caused already to American retaliations. A meeting that was supposed to be an important meeting between U.S. and Israeli officials in Washington, D.C., has been suspended by the White House. The American hesitancy is indeed to give Israelis strong indications not to go to war in Lebanon. That can be prevented if there would be some kind of solution, some kind of ceasefire in the south, in Gaza.
All right. Well, Professor Cohen, thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One with your insights on this. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.